Alright, so here's Anovos, nice and clean. Here's RS, not quite as detailed. Put them on there, they're exactly the same, fits right on top. Again, this line right here is a lot better. If you can see how much straighter that edge is. Very similar. Now the ab buttons, they're already on here. So all you have to do is just make a straight line and cut out the buttons. Very similar. And then you have these, the other buttons that go on the ab. Again, very similar. This one, you're going to have to cut it. You're basically only cutting it to this piece right here. So Anovos already made it so it fits right on. RS makes it so you have to cut it out to the right width as that one. But the buttons stick out a lot better. They look a lot better. I know a lot of people, it's easier to paint these than it is to paint these. And then, same thing. Only big difference between Anovos is a lot better detail. You can see the washboard a lot better, feel it a lot better. But oh, and then also one thing I noticed, if you look, the button are a little bit crooked. So these two are lined up. These two are lined up with themselves, but they're off of these two. If you look at the Anovos, same thing. These two are lined up. These two are lined up, but these two are not lined up with that one. If you draw a straight line, they're just off just a little bit. So these two are both off just a little bit. Okay. Now the sniper knee. So it fits pretty much right on top. Again, the only difference that I notice, just a lot sharper detail right here. And you can kind of see some spider webbing a little bit right here. The Anovos you can't. They look just like little pyramids, each separate one. Here, you can kind of see the spider webbing just a tiny bit. Will you notice that far away? No. But this one does look better because the details are sharper. So what I was saying before, with any of the forearms on both kits, there's a ridge on one side and only one side. That's how you know this is the left side. The ridge actually faces out. You don't want it facing backwards, you want it facing forward. So these two ridges go together. These two sides don't have a ridge. So once you glue this one side down and then you make it to fit your arm, you don't have a ridge here where if there's a ridge there, it's 10 millimeters. You can make it as big as you want or as small as you want. That is a good thing about both the kits. Same thing with this side. The ridges are a little bit different, and also the length of the one is quite a bit different. But the ridges are a lot bigger. Here you're going to go 10 millimeters, so all of this is going to be cut off. You're only going to have 10 on both sides. If you flip it around, there is no ridge at all. So this is the side that you're going to be adjusting when you actually build it to the right side. So let me get the arms. So Anovos made lines where they want you to cut. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to fit you if you cut it where that line is. Especially with this part, you don't even cut here, you actually cut right here. This one's fine. Maybe you can trim it down a little bit. But again, here's the ridge. And there's the ridge. You can see the ridge right here. So the two ridges go together. And this is the left hand. Two ridges go up top. And here it just has a cut line, but there's no ridge. So here you can make it as big or small as you need it to actually fit in your arm.
What about the details on the arms?
So we're going to take a look at that real quick. So we are looking at the left side. So this is not the left. This one is the left. So again, there's a ridge, there's a ridge. No ridge, no ridge. If you look at the details, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 and 11. There's a slight, it kind of goes in a little bit here and goes in a little bit here. This one, not so much. So they're kind of, they fit on top of each other, but right here it's a little bit different. Again, it could be an anomaly. You never know. This armor is thin. Both armors are thin, but this actually feels a little bit thicker than this one. And it could be the heat. The heat can affect this and make it bend a little bit more. It could be the mold. After a while, the mold will distort. But if you look, they're both the same exact size. Same thing with this one. So, not the right. There we go. There's your ridge. There's your ridge. A lot cleaner of a ridge than here. Plus, there's a lot more. He cut it just a little bit thin here. So if you put them on top of each other, they're off. Yeah, these are totally different. Almost. No. This arm is definitely a lot different. I did read that they're missing a forearm or something, so maybe that could be why their arms are totally different. But these two are totally different. They're for the same side, but they're
Who was missing a forearm?
RS.
Oh.
The armor is very old, so kept it in storage. It's not like you could keep all the armor. Some pieces ended up getting missing. All right, so now you can see how it's got a good side ridge, but again, with the ridge, you're only going 10, and then all this is extra you're cutting off. So if you look at here, it has quite a bit of an angle. If you look at here, you can see both the similar angle. See how they fit together? The only difference is this one is the RS is quite a bit longer. And then also it flares up just a little bit here compared to the Anovos, just pretty much goes straight. So big difference between those arms right there. And this one is the right arm that we're talking about. So you can see the ridge here. And then there's a ridge, you got to cut it 10, so this will be a lot smaller. This side, you can make it bigger, smaller, but they fit pretty good. So now we're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 12, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 and 12. So they both have the exact that they're supposed to. The only difference I've seen is just this one arm right here. It's the only difference. All the other ones are the same except for this one is the right side. The right top or the right outer. It's the only difference. Actually, no. I'm sorry, this is the left side. So the left one is the only difference, the left inner. It's just slightly different right in this area right here. And so now we got the shoulder bells. And what I've noticed is this one, the RS, is pushed in quite a bit. Not that the Anovos isn't. The Anovos is in pretty close too. But this one is pushed in a lot. There's also a very big, I don't know if it was the heat or whatever it was, but it's sunken in right here compared to not being sunken in. If you look at them though, I can tell one difference here. The swoop here, this one is straighter. This one kind of curves, and it goes from skinny to fatter. This one pretty much stays, oh, it does go a little bit skinnier, but it doesn't get as fat at the end. Can't really put them together because there's still a lot of material that needs to be cut out of the RS. But they're both very similar. They both have the side that goes straight down. The difference between the other side, this is the left side, this is the right side, is that it curves forward. So that's the only difference between the two shoulder bells. Now on the Anovos one, it's a lot cleaner, the lines. It swoops in, the same thing. But again, with this one, they curve in, and on here I can feel it kind of curves in a lot here and here. So I don't know if it was a mold maybe, or if it was because this is super thin. See how flexible this is. Here we can't tell. Anybody that's ever built these knows that that's one complaint, is that the Anovos was very thin. With having all this stuff on, I can't really flex it. I can feel it here. It's a little bit thicker. So that could be one reason why it's gone in a little bit here. But if you put them both in there, they're very similar. But again, a lot of this has to be cut off. There's no line though. You just kind of have to just make your own line and cut it. So that's the shoulder bells. RS and Anovos. Only one way I'll find out is once I trim both of them down, then I can get them both together before I glue any elastic on and see how much better these fit. But they're very similar. So here is the ammo or the battery pack for the knee. Okay, the biggest difference that I could tell, and a lot of people don't really realize it, especially when we had the FX kits, is you're supposed to be one side has the right angle and then the other side it curves in. So Anovos put that in there. At least they knew about it. I don't really like where they put the dots, but they have the dots so that you can put the snap rivets in here. RS does not have that. You have to, if you don't know how to do it, you could easily mess this up and make them both just straight instead of putting that line in there. But if you put them together, they pretty much line up together. And if you put them side by side, they pretty much line up. They're both very close to each other. It almost feels like this one's off. The RS is a little bit different right here. But they're very similar. To the eye, they're similar. Unless I actually get down and measure it, to me they look very similar. They're actually both very close to the same length. You're going to have to cut this down. But once you get your leg done, then you trim this down to however big your thigh is. So here they kind of have it. So if you're a bigger guy, and this is made for a little bit shorter guy, or not shorter, but not a thinner guy, you might have problems with the holes here. You can make it longer, or you can make it a little bit shorter. Just all depends on how big your thigh is. Now the actual belt part. The one thing, I've said it before on my other builds, that I do not like about this belt is the fact that they put it together for you. They did not do it right, or at least to make it 501st for a stunt. They did not do this belt right. Maybe they had their reasons for putting 4 on here, but for the stunt, this is not right. Compared to the helmet that they gave you and this belt, the way it's put together is not right. Same thing with the drop boxes. Now if this had stuff in it to make it stronger, where it doesn't bend like this, then it would still be just a little bit too long. You want to make them as close as possible. Also, this is too thin. It should be 1 inch instead of this. But we're talking about the plastic. So when you put them together, they sit right, pretty much right on top of each other. So with this one, they did it right here, 45 it. I'm not 100% sure if they have this the right length. It is on FISD. It tells you exactly how long it's supposed to be. On this one, it's longer, so you can trim it to what it's supposed to be. If I'm not mistaken, I think this one's just a tiny bit too short. It'll do, but it's just a tiny bit too short. So here you have plenty of room on both sides. Now it has the little, I can see them, just little notches right here. You make the holes, and that's where the rivet goes into this belt. And then you use these cover strips to cover the rivets. So the good thing about the RS compared to the Anovos is the belt is not put together. I love that fact. If the helmet wasn't put together and the belt wasn't put together and you actually had to put this whole kit together, in my opinion, I would probably go more with the Anovos because it just looks a lot better because of the details. But I just don't like this part. This part in the helmet, I don't like it. This holster is horrible. Maybe for trooping, but I don't like it. I'm gonna get another package with the RS, and that's gonna have the actual holster a lot softer than this one. It's gonna have the belt a lot sturdier than this one, and it's gonna have all the pieces that you need to put.